flawless experts who have all the answers. That's not this podcast. Instead, we chat with professionals who love what they do, have wisdom to share, and can laugh at their own mistakes. I'm Mark, and I'm the host of the WorkPlay Solutions podcast. So let's laugh, learn, and discover the joy of work. Boo, boo, boo. All right, Mark, how you doing today?
Doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. I am not talking to myself as much as I do refer to myself in the third person sometimes. I'm here with Dr. Marc Hunsaker, who is the Dean of Personal and Professional Development at Berry College. Mark he's an expert in life design strategy, vocational formation, and a higher ed intrapreneur, which I'm eager to know what that is. But we're going to be chatting with Mark today, Dr. Hunsaker, about debunking college and career myths. I got to know Mark through doing some consulting work for Berry's College, personal... How do you say the official name of the...
Center for Personal and Professional Development.
Center for Personal and Professional Development. And so I enjoy Mark. We have realized that we have a lot of things in common, and one of those is being very passionate about personal and professional development and meaningful work. And I've already talked too long, so I'm going to let Mark say hi. So welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So Mark, who are you?
As you mentioned, I'm the Dean of Personal and Professional Development here at Berry College, and father of two, husband of one for over 20 years now, and proud Roman here in Rome, Georgia, for almost 3 years.
Okay. Where'd you come from before Rome?
So originally, I'm from South Carolina.
Okay.
But I have had some stints elsewhere in the country, about a decade in St. Louis for my first career. And most recently, before coming back to Georgia, I spent almost a decade in Michigan.
Okay.
So very different.
I saw you were a Spartan.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Go Green.
So I am a Nittany Lion, so our teams have had some very epic end-of-season games over the last decade.
Indeed.
So since a lot of our listeners are from the Southeast, those are two teams in the Big Ten that actually matter because there is football outside of the Southeastern Conference. If you're not a football fan, just ignore that.
You said it, not me. Yeah.
Yep. If anyone we don't ever get hate mail, but that might cause some. So, all right. So
I'm also a Gamecock, though.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, just to hedge my bets a bit. I did go to USC.
There you go. All right. So this is not a football podcast, so it would be very tempting to go down that rabbit trail, and I'm easily amused, but we're not. So we're going to be covering some questions as we talk about college and career myths and debunking some of those. For example, what are some myths and dysfunctional beliefs college students have about the college and life after college? Why should college students do parallel planning? And what is life design planning, and why should you do it even if you aren't a student anymore? But before we get to that content, I've got a reminder, and then we'll do our traditional icebreaker here. So the reminder, if you are listening to this episode on the day it comes out, which is August 30th, it is currently today. It's not for me, but it is for you. At 2 p.m. today, WorkPlay Solutions is having a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Rome Floyd Chamber office in Rome, Georgia. So please stop by and help us. Well, I'll do the ribbon cutting, I guess. I get the big scissors, but after the official ceremony, which takes just a few minutes, we'll have an open house of some of the fun things that WorkPlay has to offer. So feel free to stop by at our open house. If you miss that, we'll be at the Rome Business Expo in November. Fantastic. So let's do our icebreaker question. We're going to go in the Wayback Machine. As a kid or as an adult, either one, what was one of your favorite Halloween costumes?
Oh, man. Quick disclaimer. My family does family Halloween costumes every year. So some of the best costumes are the ones that have happened in the last 12 years since we've had kids. But that means that we start talking about Halloween and reminiscing about Halloween about this time every year.
Oh, wow.
So we've actually just been talking about this. So it's a very timely topic. And I recently, my wife and I saw an 80s cover band in Chattanooga.
Okay.
And that they were dressed they were dressed in 80s garb, right, as 80s characters. And there were at least 3 band members who were dressed in Halloween costumes that I had. So I'm going to give you 3, okay?
Oh, wow.
So Karate Kid was 1, all right? Dukes of Hazzard was 2. I don't remember which Duke I was, but I was one of them. And I had a nice little car that went around me made of cardboard. It was really incredible. And 3 was Kermit the Frog.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely want to ask more questions about your family tradition of family Halloween costumes, but we'll do that in person off the off the air.
That's right.
So I like to answer my own question. So a few years ago, I bought a bacon outfit, and it is a full-length bacon outfit. And for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been some variation of bacon. So the first year I was bacon, and then the next year I put a name tag on it that said Kevin. So
nice.
I was Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And then my friend Erin lent me her Canadian flag, so I was Canadian Bacon. I had a turkey hat, so one year I was Turkey Bacon. One year I put a lot of padding in there, and so I was thick cut bacon.
Nice.
And so it started stretching. So last year I was Barry College dining hall bacon, so I put on my Viking helmets and with the bacon outfit.
Nice.
So, which whenever I'd say that to one of the students, they would mention how the bacon is cooked, and apparently it's good. So
do you have it picked out for this year?
I don't. So if you are a loyal podcast listener or you're just tuned in for the first time, I need help figuring out what bacon to be this year. So, and the rest of the family, they all match. So like Alice and Peggy and Lucy will all dress like witches or something like that. So it's like 3 witches and bacon. But what's so fun about it, when we go trick-or-treating, the kids treat me like I'm a celebrity. They're like, "Mom, it's bacon!" And they're like pointing and like, "Look, it's bacon!" And it brings joy to people. And that, besides the fact my children now find it, at least Peggy finds it embarrassing, the fact that kids get excited about it keeps me doing it every year. So
that's awesome.
So it's the me as bacon is much more famous than Mark in real life. So
now, have your wife and daughters always done their own thing, or maybe the first year were you part of like the Waffle House All-Star Special? Was there an egg involved? Was there hash browns?
Last year, I did convince Alice to buy a waffle. So
there you
she
go.
was a waffle, and one year, a friend of mine, Katie, who is a Barry grad, she came trick-or-treating with us, and she dressed as an egg. And I was like, that was so sweet.
Perfect.
So sweet. So,
well, if you're ever looking for a companion for a BLT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I may or may not have a tomato costume.
Yes.
I don't.
Oh. Well, the podcast is over. That has been Marc Hunsaker. We're laughing. It's good stuff. I could talk about Halloween all day. We're not going to. We're going to talk about debunking college and career myths. But I keep saying before we do. So, Marc, tell us a little bit about your role and how did you get to where you are? So
sure. So, like I mentioned, I've been at Barry for almost 3 years now. Dean of Personal and Professional Development. So that means that I have 2 primary responsibilities at Barry. One, I oversee our amazing one-of-a-kind student work program called LifeWorks. Over 90% of students will work at some point during their time at Barry. Most of them work across all 4 years. It's a really incredible engine to help students grow as young people and young professionals. And so I'm really proud to be heading up that program.
So just to give folks who aren't in the academic world some context, how unique is that 90% number?
Oh, for a college that does not require their students work, like if you're not a work college, it's unprecedented.
Okay.
And it's something we're very proud of. It's one of the distinctives that makes Barry Barry, and one of the primary reasons why students and parents are so excited about it once they learn, because they realize that we're not, because of the LifeWorks program, we're not leaving a student's professional development up to them or up to chance. We're saying we're going to make it a core part of your college experience, and that you'll leave here with 8 semesters of paid professional development experience, which, again, most students at most schools have to figure out how to do that on their own. And we're saying, no, we're going to embed it within your time here at Barry. And ideally that it's progressive, right? That you're continuing to grow as a young professional, getting supervisory skills, developing deeper knowledge of whatever field you're wanting to go into, and skill set to match.
Okay. And I interrupted you, so your background and education before LifeWorks. Yeah.
Well, so the other thing that I'm responsible for at Barry is Barry's Career Development Network, which is a network of mentors, faculty, staff members, supervisors, all who are helping college students figure out what their next step is on their journey of personal and professional development. Now, in some cases, that means they're exploring majors and careers. In some cases, it's helping them identify an internship opportunity or a job that they want to pursue. In some cases, it's just the basics of helping them prepare for interviews or updating their professional documents or negotiating salary, whatever it is. But that career development network is a strong partnership that we have with the academic side of the house.
Nice.
With deans like your wife, for example. And it's a really special place to even do what most schools call career services, because in most places, career services is that thing that students go to, the spring semester of their senior year when they need to update their resume. But at Barry, we try to embed career development, professional development into the student experience from day one. And that means we have to have partnerships. And so that network is a really, really special and unique component of Barry College as well. And so I'm proud to be helping to expand that network.
Great. And your field of study in your PhD program and kind of that background there?
Yeah. So I started off English major, University of South Carolina. No idea what I wanted to do. Worked for the family business for 2 years after college.
What I need to know, what's the family business?
Outdoor lighting in
Really?
Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. So Outdoor Lighting Perspectives
Okay.
is the franchise.
So if you were in, you said Augusta, and you need some outdoor lighting, see are they Hunsakers?
They are the Otises.
Otises, okay.
So, yeah. But worked for them for 2 years, and then when my wife finished college, we decided we felt a call to ministry. So I went to seminary in St. Louis, and then for about a decade, worked in ministry there, doing all kinds of things from campus ministry at a number of different schools to family ministry to student ministry. And the last job that I had there was director of vocation and campus ministries. And so my job was to help college students begin to think through, what does it look like to integrate one's faith and work in meaningful ways? What does it look like to engage in a process of vocational formation? And how can some of the more established professionals in the field mentor young professionals in what it means to be a person of faith in whatever that field is? And so that has been a long-standing passion of mine. And I decided that I wanted to make the switch from full-time ministry to working in higher ed, because that's always, in addition to vocation, been my first love. So I decided to go to Michigan State's PhD program. Higher adult and lifelong education is the focus of the program. And I went there to study vocational formation.
Nice.
And have been working in higher ed ever since.
Love it.
My last job, I love my current job. I love what I'm doing at Barry. My last job at Michigan State, the coolest job title ever.
Yeah.
I was the purpose and career design consultant for the university.
Wow.
Right? Right?
I kind of want to rip off that title. That's awesome.
I know. So helping students develop a sense of purpose for their life, learn how to engage in meaningful work. These are correlated with vocational formation and they are areas that I'm very passionate about.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And as I'm sure we'll discover as we go through this conversation, that what Marc's going to be talking about is pertinent whether you have a faith background or not. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, Marc, let's talk about some of these myths. So, we mentioned at the start of the program that we're going to debunk some myths. So, what do college students believe about college and life after college? So, what are those common myths and dysfunctional beliefs?
So that's a great question and a really important one because many students come into college with some assumptions about answers to that question. And after interviewing thousands of students, working with thousands of students over a number of years, we have come to identify 5 of the top dysfunctional beliefs, as you say, about college and life after college. Number 1, with a bullet, is that my major equals my career. And the truth is that almost 75% of people who are working in the U.S. right now are working in a career field that is not directly related to their undergraduate major. Maybe they majored in psychology, but they are not a clinical psychologist, right? They are likely not even working in a mental health related field. They are working doing HR for auto owners insurance or any number of other jobs. It's kind of sobering for many students to hear that, wow, I can do lots of things with lots of different majors. And, so our encouragement is generally don't try to pick a major based on what you think it's going to lead to in terms of a job. Pick a major that you're really interested in because the chances are you're going to do better with that because you're interested in it or passionate about the area. And being successful in college is far more important than trying to craft out some kind of linear connection to a future career when that's probably not a reality. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. There are some direct prep or professional prep programs. It's hard to become an engineer without a background in engineering, and thank you for that, right? I don't want to drive across a bridge about somebody who doesn't know about structural engineering, right? Nursing is another example. Historically, teaching has been one of those, but there are becoming more and more alternative pathways to get into the world of education beyond just having a degree in that. For the vast majority of students, they're going to work in a career field that is not directly related to the undergraduate major, but that doesn't mean that it isn't meaningfully connected.
Okay. And as I'm processing what you just shared, that's helping me understand some things. Every time I interview someone new, it's very rare that I've yet to interview or have a chat with on the podcast someone who had a straight line path from I did this, then I did that, and what we think of the traditional either corporate ladder or just staying in the same discipline. And they're like, oh yeah, well, I was an EMT for a while and now I sell learning software. And you're just like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a real example. That was Teddy on one of our earliest episodes. I've seen that pattern. And so it's encouraging to hear that is a reality, and that's okay, because I've had that a similar experience. Like, I went to graduate school for sports psych and counseling. I am not currently working for the Cleveland Guardians. Although my grandma wishes I would, but I didn't follow that path, and I've talked with so many folks who haven't followed that path, which means if you pick the wrong one, life isn't over at 22, and so there's still plenty of time to have joy and purpose in work. So
absolutely, and I love to get students to guess what I majored in, and I mentioned it earlier, but I was a English major with a focus on literature and a specialization in Shakespeare studies, a clear pathway to being Dean of Personal and Professional Development, right? But the skills that I learned there, the critical thinking, the ability to write well and speak well, and All those things are very, very pertinent to what I'm doing today.
Rome has a Shakespeare festival.
I understand.
Have you been?
No, I have not.
Well, now you need to.
I blame it on COVID.
Yeah, if you are a member of the wonderful folks that do the Shakespeare Festival, please contact Mark with Marc Hunsaker, not Marc Suroviec, with endless emails until he attends. All right, let's move down our list. What's number 2?
Number 2 is that my first job is my forever job. Or you could also say the major I come into college with, my first major, will be the major that I graduate with. So let's talk about the job first. So the average job tenure in the U.S. as of 2020 was 4 years. So most people were in a job for, on average, 4 years. Now, that changes a bit depending on where you are in your career. So earlier in your career, your first job you're at for, on average, about 2 years. Later in your career, you become more established. You tend to stay there a little longer. But across the whole spectrum, it's 4 years. So that is an important thing to know. But when it comes to choosing a major as well, it's over 70%, national average, over 70% of students who enter into college, they will either enter in undeclared or exploratory or whatever the school refers to it as, right? Or they will change their major at least once. So the vast majority of college students are changing their mind from what they thought coming in to what they end up going out with in terms of a degree. And most college students and most parents are not aware of that. And it puts a lot of pressure on a college student to say, I should have it all figured out right now. But I said I was going to do this, and I thought I wanted to do this job, and I've wanted to do it ever since I was 5 years old. I wanted to be a vet, But college has a way of teaching us more about ourselves, what we're good at, what we're not, the things that we enjoy, the things that we don't. And it's very, very normal, and in fact, an important part of college for students to grow and change, and in some cases, change their mind. And so we like to normalize the fact that exploration and re-exploration is a very normal part of college. Because we don't want students thinking, I'm making a decision that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life, when that's actually not true.
You'll probably answer this later, but do students have that same dysfunctional belief about their first job? It's like, oh, my first job's going to be not just my major is is forever, but my first job is a 20-year commitment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that leads to the third myth.
Oh,
so
okay.
The third myth, no, it's a great segue. The third myth is most college students think that they're going to have under 5 jobs in their lifetime. And so I'll ask you, what do you think the national average of jobs held by workers in the U.S. before retirement is today? As of today.
If we said in 1960, I'd say 3.
That's right. Yeah.
Today, I'm going to guess average is 9.
That's a good guess.
Okay.
It's a lot higher than most college students think.
Okay.
But it's actually 12.
Wow.
10 to 14 different jobs over one's lifetime. And you begin to unpack that a bit with people, and it begins to make sense. So, for example, I'll choose myself. I'm 44 years old, and I am on my 11th significant job since college. Now, in there were lots of promotions. The first career that I had for almost a decade, I think I was promoted 5 times. That's 5 different jobs. Okay. 5 different areas that I've been responsible for. And, you begin to unpack that with students. They're like, oh, of course I want to be promoted. Well, rarely do you start off as president of whatever, right?
Okay, so it's not necessarily 12 different organizations, it's 12 different roles. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep.
Okay.
So a job could be considered a role, but there are a number of careers that are embedded in that. So for example, I've told you about 2 different careers that I've had, right? Ministry and higher ed. Well, in between there, I also had a stint in business. Okay. Where I went back to work for the family business and outdoor lighting, but this time I wasn't an installer of outdoor lighting. I was the director of marketing.
Okay.
And I did that for 2 years while I had to retake all of the GRE quizzes that I hadn't taken in 10 years and get ready for a PhD program and pick one and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm going to put you in charge of the social media of WorkPlay Solutions. So if you want to just get on that, that'd be awesome.
So for many people, there will be a range of different careers that are in those 12 different jobs. But I would say of all the different myths, that one, the fact that you're going to have so many different jobs after college, is the biggest eye-opener for students, and the dysfunctional belief that most of them hold. They think it's just going to be a few. And if you think that, and you think that your major equals your career, or and you think that whatever I'm picking right now when I choose my major is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And so we like to help students reframe that to say, hey, it's okay. You are going to do lots of different things over your lifetime, and we're going to help prepare you to navigate a career journey and a career landscape that's going to be constantly changing.
Yeah.
Because the one thing we're guaranteed is change.
Absolutely. Right? I'm thinking back to this is a very reflective time, one, because I just started my own business a year ago, but thinking back as you talk about the college experience and saying at 20, I didn't know some of the things I've done. I didn't even know those existed. So I didn't know what a project manager was when I was 20. I knew there was professors and teachers and social workers and a handful of other things, but I didn't know project management existed. I didn't know experiential learning was a thing that you could have a career in. I didn't know all of these, I didn't know that people make a living designing surveys. Not that I want to spend all my time doing that, but still all these things I had no idea until I got into the workforce and, took on different roles and tasks and projects. And it's oh,
this is a thing.
Yeah. And
people get paid for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew? Because it's I remember trying to pick a major. So I was a psych major, and my dad's advice was a bit cynical. He said, get an IT minor, so when you don't get a job in psychology, you have something to fall back on. I'm thanks, Dad. So I studied database design, and I had no business being in those classes. It was so far out of my skill and interest set. But it's trying to decide between psychology and history and poli-sci were the three things I liked. So I just almost picked one out of a hat and just.
And I'm betting some of what you learned as a psychology major is informing your work today.
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about on the episode with Jonathan Weaver and transferable skills how much especially my grad school experience of learning how to active listen and learning how to really problem solve and hear people and get to the core issue that folks are dealing with is just a lifelong thing. And I remember my first day of grad school, my advisor basically crushing my dreams of being the sports psychologist for a professional baseball team, saying those jobs don't exist, right? I was wait, what? It's those people are consultants. They don't do that full time. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll become a consultant. It's do you think because you have a master's degree, any professional sports team is going to let you near their multi-million-dollar investment? It's she's well, how many friends do you have that are professional athletes? I'm none. It's yeah, you're not, you're not getting near them. It's well, so you could teach. I was okay, yeah, we'll teach. It's well, you need a PhD to do that. I'm oh my, what?
Who is this career advisor? We need to have a conversation.
Yeah, it was
crushing dreams.
It was day one, soul crushing. But it was real. I would have liked to know that before I applied to the program.
Yeah, right.
I ended up transferring to a different department on day 2. So, but that's a story for another day. But
well, you bring up a good point about the limited awareness that a 20-year-old. 18-year-old has about all of the different jobs, but something else that strikes me as you were talking. You weren't aware of all the things that were available, project manager, survey designer, all that. But what we're doing right now didn't exist.
Yeah.
Podcasting, not a thing, right? So not only are we limited by our awareness of what's currently available, but we are certainly not aware of what is going to be available as the economy changes, as the nature of work, the kinds of work that are available, what goes away, what comes more online. There's far fewer postal workers today than there were 20 years ago. And who would have ever thought that you could be an Uber driver or a podcast host or a social media manager, because those things weren't around. And so when we tell students, hey, your first job's not your forever job, that's just a reality that we know about the changing nature of the workforce as well. Because there are a number of studies that estimate that the majority of jobs that are out there right now will not be the same kind of jobs that are available, in the next decade, because of the rise of automation and artificial intelligence and the way that's going to change things. So it's very important that we adjust students' expectations and give them the skill set to be able to navigate that change, whether it's something that is predictable, like artificial intelligence and how it's going to disrupt things, or it is things like COVID, which flips the economy upside down, right?
Yeah.
And changes overnight what it means to be part of a office culture and work on a team, right? Because now you're doing it all remotely and all that kind of stuff. So,
all right. So before we move to our next point, I'm going to insert a pause between part 1 and part 2. So thank you for listening to part 1 of my conversation with Dr. Marc Hunsaker, Dean of Personal and Professional Development at Berry College. And please stay tuned for part 2. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review. Tell a friend. Give us a gold star, or call my grandma. And if you want unforgettable events and training that's fun, like for real fun, get started today at WorkPlaySolutions.com. I know I want that. Boo, boo, boo. And so I got to we'll edit. We're not winning any awards today.